I never thought I'd be the guy writing on a subreddit about this kind of mess, but here I am. Maybe I just needed someone to tell it straight, or maybe I want the world to see what betrayal really feels like. Either way, I need to get this off my chest, and I guess I'll start from the beginning, how it all fell apart. My wife, Emily, and I had been together for 5 years. We met in college, fell hard, and everything seemed perfect. Bright-eyed, optimistic about our future, we planned a small wedding, date set, invitation sent, everything leading up to that moment when you think, yeah, this is finally it. I thought I knew her better than anyone. She was everything I'd ever wanted, beautiful, smart, funny, and seemingly trustworthy. But trust, yeah, that's a fragile thing. And I learned that the hard way. It all started a week ago. I was out of town for a business trip, gone for 3 days. Emily had always been the affectionate type, but I'd been feeling a little distant lately, maybe because I'd been swamped with work. Still, I called her every night, and she always answered with that warm laugh. I'd fallen for, or so I thought. When I got back, something felt off. I noticed the smell of her perfume in the hallway, but not just the usual scent she wore. This was different, sharper, like someone else had been close to her. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe it was just a perfume sample she'd gotten from a friend or something. I shrugged it off. But then I saw the texts on her phone, her messages to someone named Tom, a name I hadn't heard before. The tone was intimate, playful, flirtatious. Nothing explicit, but enough to make my stomach churn. I acted normal that night, but my mind kept circling around those messages. I decided to dig a little deeper, so I sneaked a glance at her phone when she wasn't looking. I saw pictures, flirty selfies, her leaning against a wall with that damn smirk I'd seen 100 times. But what hit me hardest was the timestamp on one of the photos. It was taken the night I was away. She was with this Tom, no doubt about it. That's when I knew. I mean, I had known something was wrong, but seeing it confirmed was like a punch to the gut. I felt my palms grow cold, the room spin slightly. My stomach dropped so hard I could swear I just swallowed a stone. I didn't sleep that night, my mind racing with questions and hurt that I couldn't even put into words. I confronted her the next morning. She was still in bed, half asleep, when I dumped the evidence on her lap. "What the hell is this, Emily?" My voice was low but controlled, though my fists clenched so tight my knuckles ached. "Who is Tom, and why are you texting him like this?" She looked at me, eyes wide, lips trembling. For a moment she tried to deny it, but the evidence was too damning. She finally broke down and admitted she'd been lying, hiding a whole relationship behind my back. It was like losing my footing in quicksand. All this time I thought I knew her. Turns out I was just blind, or maybe I chose to ignore the signs because I wanted to believe she was perfect. That's where I am now, standing in the wreckage of what I thought was our future. I feel betrayed, angry, and completely lost. I keep asking myself if I ever truly knew her, or if I was just too blind to see the truth hiding behind her smile. It's humbling, and honestly, it's terrifying. Because now I have to decide what comes next. Do I forgive? Do I forget? Or do I take what's left of my dignity and do something about it? I have a plan, though I haven't executed it yet. I want her to feel what I feel, like she's lost her ground, like her deception has come crashing down on her. I want to make her regret every lie. And honestly, I think she deserves it. The question is, how far do I go? And more importantly, will I come out of this with my pride intact or just more broken? I don't have all the answers yet. But I do know this. Once you find out the person you trusted the most has been lying to your face for months, everything changes. You start to wonder if you even knew them at all. And that, my friends, is a kind of loss that's hard to come back from. The more I thought about everything, the lies, the sneaking around, the more I realized I couldn't just sweep this under the rug. I had to do something, had to send a message she'd remember. Not just for my own sake, but to make her feel exactly how I felt, betrayed, humiliated, and deflated. I needed a plan, something calculated but effective. A way to make her see she'd crossed a line so deep there was no going back. That afternoon, I started gathering evidence. I didn't want to do this in a reckless way. I wanted her to know I was serious, that I'd been paying attention all along. I went through her phone again, took screenshots of every flirtatious message, every suggestive selfie, and even the timestamps. I also found out her secret rendezvous spot, an old coffee shop near her work where she'd gone with Tom a few times. It wasn't much, but it was enough to confirm my suspicions. While she was out shopping later that day, I snuck into our bedroom. My hands trembled slightly as I opened her side of the closet. I'd seen her wear the same perfume that night, Coco Mademoiselle, so I bought a bottle that morning. I bought a small but meaningful gift bag, something simple, elegant with a note inside. I wanted her to find it at the worst possible moment, to feel the sting of her own betrayal reflected back at her. I packed a pair of her favorite perfume samples, a necklace she always wore, and tucked in the note. Here's a little reminder of what you're risking. Don't let it slip away. Next, I set my plan into motion. I booked a one-way ticket to her favorite city, Paris. I knew she'd go there for a girls' trip with her friends next weekend. I also knew she'd be at the airport, probably eager to get away. I changed her flight details, so her luggage would be waiting for her in the city with the gift inside. I also printed a fake boarding pass, so she'd see it when she checked in. I wanted her to confront her own lies, to see the plan coming together as she traveled. I spent the night before her trip waiting in our living room, feeling like I'd stepped into someone else's life. I kept thinking about all the moments she'd lied, those little smiles, her innocent laughs. All of it was a mask. I was furious, but I knew I had to stay calm. It was hard to keep from exploding, especially knowing she had no idea what was coming. When she came home from her shopping trip, I was sitting on the couch, my face cold but my voice steady. She looked tired but happy, oblivious to what I'd done. I handed her an envelope. Her eyes widened when she saw her name on it. "What's this?" she asked, her voice soft, cautious. "Open it," I said. "It's for you." She hesitated, then pulled out the note. Her eyes scanned it, and I saw her brow furrow. "What is this?" "A ticket. Your trip to Paris. You're going, and you're taking this with you." I handed her the bag that I'd left by the door earlier. "Open it." She hesitated again, then reached inside. Her eyes widened as she pulled out the perfume samples and the necklace. Her face went pale. "You planned this?" "Yeah, I thought you'd like a little reminder of what your betrayal cost you. I also thought you should see what I was capable of, what I've been holding back." She looked at me, stunned, then finally spoke. "You're crazy. This is over the top." "Maybe, but it's not over until I say it is. You lied to me, Emily, for months, and I want you to remember that every time you wear that perfume or see that necklace, because I'll never forget what you did, and I won't let you forget either." She stormed out of the room then, but I stayed there, knowing I made my point. The next day, I booked her flight, printed the boarding pass, and left everything ready. I wanted her to feel that her carefully built world was about to fall apart. I didn't want to just confront her. I wanted her to see the consequences of her lies and her betrayal. Now I wait. The trip's booked, her bag's packed, and she has no idea what's coming. I wonder if she'll realize how deep I've gone, or if she'll just blame me for overreacting. Either way, I'm ready to see her fall, and I won't be the one holding her hand when she hits the ground. The morning she was supposed to leave, I felt a strange mix of anticipation and nausea. I watched her pack her suitcase, her hands trembling slightly as she folded her clothes. She kept glancing at her phone, probably checking the flight details or wondering if I had changed my mind. But I hadn't. Everything was set, and I was ready to see how she'd react when her carefully curated lies unraveled. She finally looked at me, her eyes dark with suspicion. "You really went through all this just to send me away?" I took a slow breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "You've been lying to me for months. I think you needed to see what it feels like to be caught. This trip is your chance to think about everything, about what you did and what it means to me." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You're acting like I'm some criminal. I made a mistake, yeah, but that doesn't mean I deserve this." "I don't care about your mistake, Emily. I care about the lying, the sneaking around, the betrayal. You've broken something sacred, and I want you to understand that. This isn't just about a fling, it's about your honesty or lack thereof." She looked away, her jaw clenched. "Fine, I'll go, but do think for a second I'll be feeling guilty about it." I handed her the boarding pass I'd printed the night before. "Here, your flight leaves in 2 hours. I want you to remember one thing before you walk through that gate. You did this, not me. And I hope that trip teaches you what it feels like to lose someone you thought loved you." She snatched the paper from my hand, then shot me a look that was a mixture of anger and hurt. "You're not the man I married," she spat. "You're just some guy who's been carrying around a grudge and a plan." "Maybe I am," I said softly. "Maybe I'm finally seeing the truth. Either way, I'm done pretending I didn't know what you're capable of." She turned and grabbed her suitcase, her face flushed with frustration. She headed toward the door, but I caught her arm gently, stopping her. "One last thing," I said, voice low but firm. "When you're in Paris, look in that bag again. Remember who made it possible for you to have that little escape. You'll be taking a piece of me with you." She looked at me, eyes flashing. "You're pathetic." "Maybe," I admitted, "but I'm also the guy who's finally taking control of his life, and I won't be waiting around for you to come back and lie some more." She shoved past me, slamming the door behind her. I stayed there, my stomach twisting. Part of me felt relief. Finally, I was taking back my power. But another part, the deep, aching part, told me I was losing her forever. Still, I knew one thing for sure. I'd never let her see me vulnerable again. Not after this. The house was quiet now, too quiet. I sat down in the living room, staring at the empty doorway, feeling the weight of everything I'd just done. I had handed her keys, turned her life upside down, and set her loose in a city where she'd be forced to face her own lies. I could have gone for something more destructive, an angry, bitter revenge, but instead I chose minimalism. The trip, the note, the empty space she'd leave behind. And honestly, it felt good. Not easy, but right. Because if she ever wants to come back, she'll have to work for it. She'll have to face what she's done, not just run away. I don't expect instant closure. I don't even know if I'll ever fully forgive her. But I do know this: I won't be the guy she walks all over anymore. That chapter is closed. Now the question is, what's next? Do I wait and see if she comes back, or do I cut all ties and move on? I'm leaning toward the latter, but I need to be sure. It's a strange feeling, knowing I've made a decision that might change everything. I just hope I've done the right thing, because at this point, I really don't have much left to lose. The silence after she left was deafening, but it also gave me room to breathe, sort of. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to understand if I'd gone too far or not far enough. I told myself I'd done what I needed, sent her away, handed her a wake-up call, made her feel the sting of her betrayal. Still, part of me wondered if I'd crossed a line, if my plan was too brutal even for someone like her. But honestly, I didn't care, because in that moment I realized I'd been living in a fog, pretending I didn't see what was happening right in front of me. I'd ignored the little red flags, her phone's late-night messages, the way she flinched when I got too close to her secrets. I'd convinced myself it was just stress or paranoia, or maybe I wanted to believe she was perfect. But the truth was, I had trusted her blindly, and she'd shattered that trust without a second thought. The next few days were a whirlwind. I stayed busy, trying to keep my mind from spiraling into chaos. I went for long walks, feeling the cool air burn my lungs, the ground crunching beneath my boots. I needed to clear my head, to force myself to see things straight, because I knew I couldn't just sit and stew. No, I had to decide whether I was going to move on or fight for something different. In the quiet moments, I'd think about what I'd left behind. The house, our memories, her smile, so deceptively innocent. Now all I could see was the betrayal lurking behind every look, every word she'd ever spoken. I'd come to realize that I'd been blind for too long, caught up in the idea of the perfect future I'd built. And now, that future was crumbling piece by piece. One night I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the half-empty bottle of whiskey I'd poured myself. I wasn't really drinking to get drunk. I was trying to drown out the ache. My heart was pounding hard enough that I could feel it in my temples. That's when the phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. I hesitated, then looked. It was a photo, a close-up of her hand holding the necklace I'd given her, still around her neck but with a new, different ring on her finger. My stomach twisted. My blood ran cold. The message read, "You lost her, move on." I clenched my fists so hard I could feel the nails digging into my palms. That was it. That was the reality check I needed. She'd already moved on, already replaced me. All my effort, all my pain, was just a stepping stone for her to forget me faster. But here's the thing, I wasn't going to let her do that. Not without a fight. I knew I couldn't control her, but I could control how I responded. I decided. Then to keep pushing forward, not to let her win by making me feel small. If she wanted to run from the truth, so be it. I'd make sure she remembered what she threw away. The next day, I threw myself into planning. A part of me still wanted to reach out, call her, send a message, somehow get her to see I wasn't just some fool she could leave behind. But I held back. I knew better. If I wanted closure, I had to do it on my own terms. So I made a plan. I'd start by clearing her stuff from the house. The clothes, the little things she left behind, each one a reminder of what I'd lost. I'd hand over her keys, cancel any joint accounts, and make it clear that I was done chasing something that was already gone. I even printed divorce papers, ready to sign if she ever came back and wanted to patch things up. But I wasn't waiting for her anymore. What surprised me the most was how calm I felt, more in control than I'd been in years. It was like shedding a skin I didn't realize I'd been wearing for too long. I didn't need her validation anymore. I just needed to stop pretending everything was fine when it was. That night, I took her keys from the hook, placed them on the table, and left a note. "It's over. You're free to go, but don't come back expecting the man you once knew." I watched her handle the keys, her face unreadable. I could see the flicker of something, regret, anger, I wasn't sure. But I knew one thing: I'd reclaimed my life piece by piece. She may have thought she was the one with the power, but I'd learned that the real strength was in knowing when to let go. And I was done holding on to something that was already gone. It was time to move forward, no regrets, no looking back. After I handed her the keys, the house suddenly felt emptier than ever, even with all her stuff gone. I thought I'd feel relief, but instead I was hit with this strange, hollow ache. Like I'd just lost a part of myself I didn't realize I'd been holding onto so tightly. That's when I realized the worst part wasn't her betrayal. It was how deeply I'd allowed myself to be blindsided by her perfect smile, by the illusion of us. I kept telling myself I was done. Done with the lies, the deception, the constant second-guessing. I'd already set the wheels in motion. I'd canceled her phone plan, changed my number, and started looking into legal advice about the divorce. Honestly, it felt like walking through glue, slow and sticky and full of regret. But I also felt like I was finally shedding a weight I'd carried for too long. One night I sat in the dim glow of my living room, a glass of water in hand, staring at the empty space where she used to sit. My mind raced. Did I really do the right thing, or was I just punishing myself? The truth was, I didn't have a clear answer. All I knew was I was tired of feeling powerless, tired of feeling like I was just waiting for her to decide my worth. That's when I started reflecting seriously. I thought about all the signs I'd ignored, how her laughter sometimes sounded forced, how she'd clutch her phone like it was a lifeline. I remembered the little things she'd say, the tiny lies she'd tell when I asked about her plans. I realized I'd been so eager to believe in the good, in the us, that I'd blinded myself to what was right in front of me. I also thought about how she must have felt, probably caught, maybe guilty, maybe even angry. But I knew one thing: she'd betrayed me, and I had every right to feel furious. I'd been good to her, but instead of reciprocating, she'd chosen to hide her affair behind my back. That kind of betrayal doesn't just hurt, it shatters the foundation of trust that everything else is built on. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became that I had to move on completely. No contact, no lingering hope that she'd come back and fix it. I needed to cut the cord and rebuild my life from scratch. I also realized I'd been giving her too much power, letting her dictate my feelings, my progress. That was over, so I made a decision. I'd start by blocking her on social media. No more checking her account, no more watching her stories, no more risking getting dragged back into that mess. I'd also go to a therapist, something I'd been putting off because I felt too ashamed or weak. Turns out, facing the pain head-on was the only way forward. One evening I sat down with my mail and a familiar envelope caught my eye. It was a letter from her, probably sent before I cut ties. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a short note, no apology, no explanation, just a paragraph saying she was sorry things ended this way, that she hoped I'd find happiness. It was cold, impersonal, and it confirmed what I already knew. She'd moved on and I needed to do the same. I crumpled the letter in my hand and threw it in the trash. That was the moment I realized I was finally letting go. I'd spent so long trying to hold on to the hope that she'd come around, that she'd realize her mistake. But I was done being a martyr to her lies. I was tired of feeling secondary, like I was just a character in her story. So I packed a small bag, just enough for a weekend getaway. I booked a room at a little cabin upstate, somewhere quiet where I could think without distractions. I didn't tell her. She probably wouldn't care anyway. This was for me. To breathe, to reflect, to start over. As I drove away that morning, I felt a strange sense of liberation. I knew I might still hurt. I might still wonder what I'd done wrong, but I also knew I'd taken back some control. I'd made a choice to walk away from the chaos and face whatever came next with a clearer mind. Because the truth was, no matter how much it hurt now, I was done waiting for her approval, her apology, her return. I was finally ready to rebuild my life, one honest step at a time. And that, I told myself, was the only way forward. The days that followed were a blur of quiet moments and small victories. I spent most of my time at the cabin, away from everything that reminded me of her. The lake outside was peaceful, the air crisp and clean, nothing like the suffocating feeling of betrayal that had haunted me for weeks. It was there, in that silence, that I finally allowed myself to breathe fully again. I spent hours reflecting on what I'd done, handing over her keys, canceling her accounts, blocking her social media. That had all been necessary. But more than that, it was about reclaiming my sense of self, piece by piece. I realized I'd spent so long trying to fix what was broken that I'd forgotten I could just walk away and start fresh. That I had the power to decide my own worth, regardless of her lies. One afternoon, I sat on the dock, staring out over the water. The wind was gentle, carrying the faint scent of pine and the distant call of a bird. I thought about the woman I'd loved, how she once made me feel alive, how her smile could brighten the darkest day. I also remembered how that same smile had been a mask all along, hiding her true intentions. That realization was bitter, but it was necessary. I had to accept that I'd been blind, but I also had to forgive myself for not seeing sooner. A few hours later, I found myself in the town nearby, walking through the streets with a different purpose. I stopped at a small cafe, ordered a coffee, and sat outside. As I sipped, I noticed a few familiar faces, people I'd known for years, talking, laughing, living their lives without the weight of betrayal. Pressing down on them, that's when I understood something vital. I was not defined by her actions, and I didn't have to carry this pain forever. This was just a chapter, one that I could close and then turn the page. I finally made a decision. I'd start rebuilding, but not for her, this was for me. I'd find new hobbies, reconnect with friends I'd neglected, and maybe even try dating again someday, not out of anger or revenge, but because I owed it to myself. To heal. To be whole again. Looking back now, I see it clearly. The betrayal was a blow, yes, but it also became a catalyst. Without it, I might have stayed stuck, pretending everything was fine. Instead, I chose to face the truth, no matter how painful. I learned that sometimes the only way to move forward is to cut the cord, accept the loss, and focus on what's ahead. So I packed my things that evening, ready to head back home. I left a note on the cabin door, simple, direct. Thanks for the memories, but I'm done. Wishing you the best in your new life. I handed over the keys to the landlord, locked the door behind me, and watched as the place faded into the distance. Driving back, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't known in a long time. I'd taken control of my story again. I might always carry some scars, but they no longer defined me. I was finally free from her betrayal, from the lies, from the illusion of a perfect life that was never real in the first place. And as I pulled into my driveway, I knew one thing. This wasn't just the end of her chapter. It was the start of mine. I'd rebuild my life, stronger and more aware, knowing now that the only person who could truly hurt me was the one I trusted most, and that I'd be damned if I let her do it again. For anyone out there feeling lost in betrayal, hear this. You can survive it. You can rebuild. And sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away, knowing you're finally free.